Something is breaking right now. Maybe it is your finances. Maybe it is your relationship, your career, your health, your sense of direction, or your belief that the future is going to be okay. Maybe it is all of it at once, pressing down on you from every direction. And what makes it genuinely unbearable, what takes it from difficult to devastating, is not just the situation itself. It is the feeling of losing your grip, the feeling that the one thing you thought you could count on, your own mind, is starting to betray you. The racing thoughts at 3 in the morning, the tightness in your chest that never fully goes away, the spiral that starts the moment something goes wrong and doesn't stop until you've convinced yourself that everything is ruined and nothing will ever be okay again. That experience is not weakness, it is biology. And biology can be trained. This audiobook is not going to tell you to breathe and think positive. It is not going to hand you a list of affirmations and send you on your way. What it is going to do is go deep, far deeper than most people are willing to go, into the science, the psychology, and the unvarnished truth of what it actually means to build a mind that stays calm when life refuses to cooperate. You are going to understand why your mind behaves the way it does under pressure. You are going to understand the mechanics of panic, the neuroscience of calm, the psychology of identity, and the philosophy of endurance. And then you are going to be given a complete, practical, layered system for training yourself, not just to cope, but to genuinely transform the way you respond to difficulty. Here is what most people fundamentally misunderstand about calm. They believe it is a personality trait. They believe some people are simply wired to handle chaos, to stay composed under fire, to keep moving when everything around them is collapsing. And when they watch those people, they feel either admiration or resentment or both, because they assume that steadiness is something those people were born with, something they themselves simply do not have. That belief is wrong. Calm is not a gift. It is a skill. It is built, not inherited. And like every skill in existence, it can be learned, practiced, refined, and ultimately mastered by anyone who is willing to do the work. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will have that skill, not as a theory, as a lived reality. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The illusion of control: why your mind breaks when life does. There is something your brain is doing right now, every single second of every single day, that you are almost certainly not aware of. It is building a model of the world, a detailed, constantly updated internal map of how things work, what to expect, what is safe, what is dangerous, what is reliable, and what is not. Your brain does this automatically, unconsciously, and with extraordinary sophistication, drawing on everything you have ever experienced, every pattern you have ever noticed, every outcome you have ever learned to predict. And embedded in that model, woven through the very architecture of your psychology, is one of the most powerful and most dangerous assumptions a human being can make. The assumption that you are in control, not total control, perhaps. You are not naive enough to believe you control the weather or the economy or the behavior of other people. But in the quiet, private corners of your mind, you believe you need to believe that if you plan carefully enough, work hard enough, make smart enough decisions, and avoid the obvious mistakes, then life will more or less go the way you intend it to. That belief is not stupidity. It is a survival mechanism. The brain requires a sense of predictability to function efficiently. It needs to feel that its model of the world is accurate, that its predictions are reliable, and that the effort it puts into understanding cause and effect will pay off in the form of outcomes it can anticipate. Without that sense of predictability, the brain cannot prioritize, cannot plan, cannot rest. Without it, everything becomes a potential threat. And so the brain constructs the illusion of control with extraordinary care. It constructs it through routine, the comfort of doing the same things in the same order, which creates the sensation that the day is manageable. It constructs it through planning the relief that comes from writing things down, making lists, setting goals, as if the act of articulating an intention gives you power over whether it will be realized. It constructs it through expectation, the quiet, often unspoken belief that because you have put in the effort, because you have done what was required of you, the outcome you are hoping for is somehow owed to you. The promotion, the stability, the healthy relationship, the thriving family, the body that cooperates, the future that looks the way you imagined it. And then something happens. Something you did not plan for, did not see coming, did not deserve, and the model shatters. This is the moment most people describe as life falling apart. But what is actually happening, what is happening neurologically, psychologically, at the deepest level of how the mind processes reality, is not that life is falling apart, it is that the illusion is falling apart. The map your brain built so carefully, the model it has been relying on to navigate the world, has been contradicted by reality. And your nervous system's response to that contradiction is not philosophical curiosity. It is alarm, pure, visceral, full-body alarm. The panic you feel when the diagnosis comes, when the relationship ends, when the job disappears, when the money runs out, that panic is not a sign that you are weak or that the situation is necessarily as catastrophic as it feels. It is a sign that your brain's model of the world has just been invalidated, and your survival systems have kicked in to deal with what they perceive as a life-threatening level of uncertainty. This is why people who are otherwise intelligent, capable, and resilient can completely fall apart when things go wrong. It is not because the difficulty is too great. It is because the loss of perceived control triggers a neurological cascade that makes clear thinking nearly impossible. And here is the critical point. As long as you believe that the goal is to get control back, to fix the situation, solve the problem, restore the order, you will remain trapped in a cycle of panic and exhaustion, because you are fighting a war you cannot win against the fundamental unpredictability of life. The philosopher Epictetus, who spent years of his life as a slave, before becoming one of the most influential thinkers in history, identified what may be the single most important distinction a person can ever make. He called it the dichotomy of control. Some things are within our power, he said, and some things are not. Within our power are our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our choices, our responses. Not within our power are our bodies, our reputations, our positions, the actions of other people, the conditions of our lives, Epictetus argued, and modern psychology has since confirmed that virtually all human suffering is rooted in our refusal to honor this distinction. We spend our energy desperately trying to control what we cannot control, and neglecting the only domain where our power is absolute, how we respond to what happens. This is not a passive idea. It is not resignation. It is not telling you to give up or accept defeat or stop trying to improve your circumstances. What it is telling you is this: the goal is not control. The goal is clarity. The goal is to get so clear about what you can actually influence your thoughts, your actions, your interpretations, your choices, that you stop wasting your psychological resources on everything outside that domain. Because the energy you are currently spending trying to control the uncontrollable is not neutral. It is actively destructive. It keeps your nervous system in a state of perpetual alarm. It keeps your thinking clouded. It keeps you reactive rather than responsive, desperate rather than deliberate. Researchers who study what is known as the locus of control have found that people who believe the outcome of their life is primarily determined by external forces, other people's decisions. Luck. Circumstances consistently experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and helplessness, and lower levels of resilience, performance, and well-being. Meanwhile, people who believe that their responses and choices, even within difficult circumstances, are the primary driver of their experience, consistently show higher levels of mental health, greater resilience in the face of adversity, and dramatically better long-term outcomes. The difference is not in the circumstances. The difference is in where people believe their agency lives. The first step in training your mind to stay calm when life gets hard is not a breathing exercise or a mindset hack. It is a fundamental philosophical reorientation. It is the decision made consciously, deliberately, and repeatedly to stop measuring your stability by whether things are going according to plan, and to start measuring it by the quality of your response to whatever is actually happening. When you make that shift, everything changes. Not because the chaos disappears, but because you stop giving the chaos the power to determine your inner state. You stop being a person who is calm when life cooperates and shattered when it doesn't. You become, instead, a person whose calm does not depend on circumstances at all. That person is who this audiobook is building, and it starts with accepting fully, not reluctantly, that control was always an illusion and that letting go of it is not loss. It is liberation. Chapter 2. The neuroscience of calm what your brain is actually doing when everything falls apart. If you have ever been in the middle of a genuine crisis and found yourself unable to think clearly, unable to make a rational decision, unable to remember basic information, unable to access the reasoning ability you know you normally have, you were not imagining it. Your thinking brain was not fully available to you. And understanding exactly why that happens, in biological terms, is not an academic exercise. It is foundational. Because you cannot build a calm mind without first understanding the machinery you are working with. Your brain is,